again, welcome to Motorvation number 2. I want to first say that I really appreciate all the feedback that I got on the last one. I know that these, again, are just kind of me sitting here. In the future, I'd like to explore other things like having these conversations while I'm working on a car or in different locations or things like that, or even inviting people to kind of speak with me on them. But for now, I just really felt comfortable with getting the content out there and at least sharing the message with you guys. These are things that, sometimes talking about it helps me out, and it gives me sort of a reminder to myself of the morals and ideas that I should be striving to have. So it's a little selfish motivation, but I hope it helps you too. So the topic I wanted to go over this week is kind of just, it's about, how do I phrase this? Really simple things that we learn as kids that oftentimes get overlooked when we're older, and more specifically, the idea of do unto others. And so, I'll definitely admit to needing to follow this sometimes, but I also take some pride in how I do apply it in my everyday life. And the big thing for me is, living your life with the patience and understanding and respect for other people that you would like people to have for you. And more importantly, I know that as we get older, we feel like we're starting to lack things. I know that for me, a big thing that I feel I lack is people reaching out to me or spending time with people that I care about, or just having conversations. And so, something that happened in my life a few years ago was, I kept feeling this way, and I kept feeling this way, and it built up a lot of frustration in me. And so, my resolution to it was to say, well, at the very least, if I feel like I'm not getting something, instead of like dragging on about that, instead of like letting that weigh me down, I'm gonna at least just do it for other people. Because again, if I feel this way, then there's a large chance that other people feel this way too. And so if I can't get the good feeling of having it done for me, I can at least get the good feeling of being what I feel I'm lacking for other people. And so, it made me realize though that that is the core of kind of like do unto others. Like, if you want somebody to, reach out and do things for you, then you should probably do that for other people. If you want people to give you patience and understanding for your mistakes or for things that you're learning or progressing in, then you need to show that to other people. If you want people to be welcoming to you in a new environment, then you need to be that when somebody enters your environment. And I think that it might be easy to say, well, that it's not that easy, or it's not the same, or whatever. But the reality is, I think the large chunk of that do unto others statement really pertains to people that you don't know that well. Because people that you already know well, or people that are already in your life, you kind of already express like the patience, you give them slack on stuff, and you understand them because you know them. But they also already kind of do that for you. But the thing is, when there's people that you don't know very well, or in the situations where, we are susceptible to quick judgment or negative feelings of other people, it's typically when those people don't know us very well. And so, that's like the most critical point when you need to express with a lot of intent the do unto others mentality, so that you can feel that you're doing your part as being understanding and patient and respectful to people around you. And typically I like to use examples with this kind of stuff, and the one that's in my head about this is like people always complain about other people driving poorly. But I don't think that many people consider the fact that, in retrospect, they might be one of the people that drives poorly to somebody else. And so, you know, when somebody's like, oh, that jerk cut me off, or that jerk didn't let me in, or whatever, you know, it might be the case, but don't you wish that in the instance where you mistakenly cut somebody off, or you mistakenly make a turn when you weren't supposed to, or you like sit at a red light too long because your mind's in a different place, that somebody would at least express the understanding that you know, you aren't a perfect human being and that you do make mistakes? So I always think about that kind of stuff, and you know, one thing that really drags me down is when there's a statement made that kind of like generalizes, when people say people are stupid, or like, you know, I'm not worried about me, I'm worried about other drivers, or I'm worried about other people. Well, I mean, that's such a harsh thing to say, because everybody is other people. So your parents, your siblings, your friends, your coworkers, your significant other, those are all other people. And if you're excluding them from that statement, then I mean, there's no point in even being like specific when you make that statement, because the general idea is that you're summarizing kind of a complex situation where people might not be as experienced, or they might not be aware, or they might not have the guidance, or they might not have they just might be having a bad day in that moment, and you're generalizing that by calling them stupid. And I know that it's just a general statement to kind of be a catch-all of like, man, sometimes it sucks to be in traffic when things aren't going right, or it sucks to be at the grocery store when people aren't paying attention, or whatever. But I really, you know, I think it's just a poor mind space to be in, to generalize things like that, instead of to like really analyze the situation and say, okay, so what really is happening? Are people just completely oblivious to what they're doing, or are they, you know, maybe just not aware that they should be doing more, or whatever? But I think that we need to give people that opportunity to learn or to grow, and to not just dismiss them as stupid. And that goes for everything, you know. That goes for significant others, exes, family members, or whatever, that, you know, well, like all, you know, people say all my exes are jerks, or they're assholes, or they're bitches, or whatever. But really, that's not the case. I mean, especially in that instance, like there was something about that person that you enjoyed at one point, so you can't really like generalize like that. And if that's your way of like coming to peace or coming to terms with your frustrations, then I challenge you to visit those in a different way. And again, like there's a million different ways that you could visit that. I can't I can't really give people those tools, because there's different ways of coping with things. But I definitely think that the start of it is to realize that, you know, using a catch-all statement like that, or not being understanding, or not giving people what you would want people to give you in that situation, I don't think that's a good start. And so I think that you need to evaluate that in a way of like, well, if I was on the other side of this, how would I want somebody to handle it? And you know, again, it seems like a really easy idea to think about, but it is definitely something that takes patience and some conscious awareness to actually resolve, because that means you have to like stop your initial emotional response and turn it around completely and go, okay, well, maybe I'm frustrated with this, but how would I want somebody to react to me in that way? So I know that this one's it's not as like clear, and it's very hard to explain, but the idea really is that, like, I think, you know, the majority of people's shortcomings are their lack of understanding of their interactions with other people, and that's what creates like the lack of self-confidence or doubt or disdain towards other people. And instead of, evaluating that and opening that up and trying to explore why those interactions aren't going as they would like them to, they just dismiss it with like a negative statement about that person or people in general. When, the only way to figure out why something isn't going the way that you want it to is to really sit down and ask yourself what sort of involvement you could do differently, or what if you could have more involvement or less dependency or more support or whatever. But again, the only way that we're going to resolve these issues that we have with other people is to treat them as though, as how we would want to be treated. And, I think that's really the first step towards figuring out like who you are and what you're looking for in life. Because if you're doing those things, if you're treating people the way that you would want to be treated, regardless of anything else, like if you're at least just giving them that thing, then you can feel good about yourself, and then you can, at that point, it's really hard to be like self-conscious or self-loathing, because you know that you're doing the right thing. But if you evaluate your personal reactions on a case-by-case basis, where you go, does this person deserve to be treated a certain way? Does this person deserve to be treated this way? Oh, this is somebody that I have experience with, so even if they might not deserve it, I'm still going to do it for them because I owe them that. No. Every situation, treat somebody with the same respect that you would want them to treat you with, or anybody to treat you with. And maybe a way of viewing that scenario is not to view it as they're doing it to you, but view it as somebody that you respect or already highly value would do something to you. Like, if somebody's annoying you and they're like, oh man, like, can you help me out? Can you help me out? Can you help me out? And you're like, but if there was somebody that helps you out a lot, just think of how you would want to. And the thing is, I'm not saying give in to everybody. Like, that's really like not the case here. It's not to just be submissive to people, but it's at least like understanding that if you're going to tell somebody no, if you're going to let somebody down, or if you're going to like have frustrations with somebody, then give them the respect that you would want. Like, if somebody was mad at you, you might think that you want them to just forgive you and move on, but really, maybe that's not possible. So at the very least, you'd be like, hey, can you at least explain to me like what's wrong, so I know moving forward. Or if, somebody was too busy to help you out and you had asked them for help, instead of them just being like, God, bro, leave me alone, or just ghosting you, would you not want them to explain like, hey, you know what, like, I'm really sorry, but time is of essence lately. I'm very busy, and I just can't afford to spend that time helping you out right now. I feel really bad about it, but I would love to help you out, and I'm sorry that I cannot. Instead of just ignoring you. Or something that happens to me quite often is I invite people to do things, and I would much prefer to hear, hey dude, I'm sorry I can't make it, like I really wish I could, and I just, I got too much stuff going on, or I'm just not feeling it today, but I appreciate the offer. But, a lot of the times when people get invited to something and then they just bail on it, they just don't say anything and hope it goes away. So I just ask you that when you feel these things that are like negative to you, then evaluate, man, like, how would I handle that situation? How would I have handled it? And then move forward with your life doing that. And then also, when you experience things that like, somebody is doing negatively to you, or like that, you feel like disdain or whatever to them, like, think about them in the situation where you're like, well, how would I want to be treated? So like, that's how I'm going to respond. And I know this one isn't very well put together in my head, but it is something that isn't very easy to kind of put into words, because there's so many different applications of it. But it really comes down to those situations that you get into when they're difficult, or when you're having a conflict with another person, just exploring, like, if you were on the other side of it with somebody that you cared about, like, how would you want them to handle it? And again, like I said earlier, I am definitely one that needs to apply this in some cases, and I already do in some other cases, but there's always room for growth, and there's nothing wrong with self-evaluating and making some changes as we move forward. So as these go out, obviously I'll be a little bit better at my speaking points, but I really want to avoid cutting and chopping and making it sound like I have all my ideas concise and figured out, because I feel like talking through it helps me kind of roll with it and really express the idea and show you that I'm not a perfect human being, and that I have to think about these things as well. So this one for me is one that kind of hits home because there's a lot of scenarios that I get involved in where I wish somebody would have handled it differently, and there's definitely a lot of scenarios where I look back and I go, man, I should have handled that differently. So it's just a matter of self-evaluation, and there's so much power in self-evaluation, and I hope that even though this message was kind of wobbly, that you still understand what I'm talking about, and again, I will share more with you in the future. That's all I got for now. Hopefully the next one will be a little bit more smooth flowing, but that's how this stuff goes. I'm putting these out as a way to learn and a way to experience these talking points. So yeah, hope to see you guys in the next one, and I hope this helped. If you have any topics that you think I might be able to discuss, or that just are burning you and you don't understand them right now, then let me know. I'll see if I have any talking points on it, but I'm making a list currently of all the things that I've kind of talked about before and topics that are important to me, so I'll be going down that list and talking more about them. But yeah, that's all I got this time. Thanks again, and I really appreciate all the support and the feedback, which is most important for me. So keep on providing that feedback, whether it's good or bad, and I will see you guys next time.